Frederick Knutson, why are you making a tier list for cards in a board game? Because it's my weekend and I get to choose what to do with it. Also, I just finished recording the final narration for my newest video, and my sound booth is still set up. So, now is an opportune time. I am not pivoting to board game content. I have just been playing board games a lot over the past few months, and Everdell has been one of my favorites. It has been occupying my mind quite a bit. And so I thought it would be fun to just make a tier list. Who knows? This is for the 10 people in my audience who play Everdell. I'm sure you'll enjoy this. Couple of notes. First, this is for the base game. I do not have any of the expansions, and I feel like the base game is so neat and tidy and works so well on its own that I don't really feeling that much encouragement to play it. Like, they made the base game too good. And so I'm not going to give them more money for the expansions. Sorry. Also, as a bonus, you get to learn the gender of all of the critters, because I play on the German version, and in German, professions all are gendered. So the translators had to figure out, or maybe were told, what gender is this critter? And so they put it on the card. So you all get to learn that as well. So let me explain the tiers. Understand first that all cards in Everdell are situational. There are some cards that I'm going to put in S tier that you don't necessarily want to grab at the very end of the game, for example. It's strong through most of the game, but then maybe it doesn't help at all at the end. Then there are some cards that you play at the end of the game, but will be much, much weaker if you try to play it earlier, right? So all of this is going to be contingent on time. On timing. I'm going to try to make that as clear as I can from the outset. First of all, the school. I'm going to put the school in situational. I think it's good. One thing you're going to note is that most purple cards are going to be all counted right next to each other, and that's because all of them are, I would say, about the same strength. The school is really good if you're going for a heavy green strategy with a lot of common critters, because you get one bonus point for every common critter, so it's really good to kind of top off a strategy. It would... On its own, it's good, but then the associated critter. The problem is the associated critter with it is the teacher. We'll talk about the teacher in a minute. Just because of that, I'm going to put it down here. Like, my instinct is situational at first, but I look at the critter and just it's so weak in comparison. Now, purple cards you're usually playing at the end, but you'll still get some value out of that paired card. So I would say that the school is one of the weaker purple cards because of the teacher. The wife. If you are playing in the online version, then you might see this as the gatherer, but it functions exactly the same, right? It's one of the two critters attached to the farm. The wife, it's really hard. It's like high C. I'm going to put her in B because in the deck, you have a pretty big deck in Everdell. There are 8 farms, but there are only 4 husbands and 4 wives. And sometimes you just don't get what you're looking for. Like, sometimes all of the women are just hanging out at the bottom of the deck, or all of the men are hanging out at the bottom of the deck, and so you don't get to pair them with the husband. Like, the wife really only helps a lot if you have the Evertree, or you pair her with the husband. Now, when you can pair her, she is very, very strong, and oftentimes you'll end up in a situation where you have her husband readily available, because there are 4 of them in the deck. But then there are times where you just never see them. All the men are off at the bar or something, and they're just not showing up. So really, you kind of have to play it by ear. But in general, you're going to find, you will, in most games, find a pair. But there is always a very good chance that you won't. So, situational. You play it by ear. The Ranger, in German Waldläufer. This is a man, and he is an A tier. The Ranger's ability is very strong. It allows you to move a worker from one place to another. That on its own is very good. He's also relatively cheap, but I would still put him in B tier if it were not for the extra effect that he gives the dungeon. it's really good. The dungeon is a really strong card. Again, we'll get to it when we arrive at that card, but the fact that the ranger gives you another spot in the dungeon bumps him up very high A tier. Like if you have a dungeon, probably S tier. You almost certainly are hunting for a ranger if you have a dungeon. I'm tempted to put him in S tier in the right circumstances, but because you don't just grab him automatically, because he needs to be paired with the dungeon to be strong, I'm putting him in A tier. He's not an automatic pickup. One last note about the ranger that makes him significantly weaker, and I think bars him from going into S tier maybe, is that you cannot put him into the second slot of your dungeon. I know that there's sometimes a little bit of confusion around that, but no, you cannot put the ranger in the second slot in your dungeon. You have to keep him around if you want that second slot. Now, after the second slot is filled, you can get rid of him with a university or something of that kind. But until the second slot is filled, if you want that second slot, you gotta keep the ranger around for it. The minor mole, Minenmalwurf. This is a man, and he is situational. Most of the time, you're not going to be eyeing him very closely. The only time you're really excited to see him is if your opponent has a Barge Toad and 2 or 3 farms. Besides that, unless playing the Minor Mole would give you a resource that you really need to get some combo going, he's situational. I feel like he's pretty self-explanatory. He lets you copy an effect if your opponent has really been building up a cool green strategy, or if your opponent has something that you really, really need. You can basically burn 3 berries to get another resource that you need, but he does take up a spot in your city, and he is only worth 1, so you better be getting something else out of him as well if you're not, if you don't have a very narrow idea of what you're doing in mind. The inn... it's somewhere in between B and C. It's either low B or high C. I'm going to put it in high C. The reason being twofold. First of all, it's open. Your opponents can use the card. And while, yes, you get a point if one of your opponents uses it, its ability is so strong that you are almost always willing to give your opponent a point to get a free critter or construct in, not always free, obviously, but reducing the cost by 3 resources. That is very, very strong. And you're almost always willing to give your opponent a point for that. Plus, its associated critter is the Innkeeper. That's not that helpful because the Innkeeper is only 1 berry. And while berries are very precious, 1 berry is not a big concern. Like, you can get him very easily. It's more about when he shows up than how you're going to get him, unlike a lot of other cards. I see the inn. It's so cheap. It's so strong. It's worth 2 points, but I find myself passing it up very frequently, and I think it's for the reasons that I mentioned. The king. King is low B. The king is strong, for sure. It's very easy to get quite a few points from him, but it's hard to get a ton of points from him. He's worth 4, just naturally, but it's situational in that if you have a bunch of events that you've accomplished, yeah, sure. But it's very common to only get 1 or no special events, and maybe only 1 normal event. So he's probably going to be worth like 5 or 6 on his own, sometimes 7, but that's about in line with other purple cards. It's nice that he's attached to the Schloss. That's the castle. Excuse me, sometimes I might say the German names because I'm used to saying the German names, but being attached to the castle is very strong because you want to play both of those cards at the very end, and so they synergize really well, especially compared to the Palace and the Queen. So I would say, like, he makes a lot of sense. So maybe he's a little bit higher. Well, we'll see where the other purples land, but I'll put him in situational, like a lot of the other purple cards. The mine. A lot of these are on the line between B and C. Like, I'm thinking maybe I needed another tier, but I think that the mine goes in B tier. There are a lot of circumstances where the mine just makes sense. If you have a crane, you get to play it for free effectively, and you get your 1 pebble back, and it's a green card, so it's very easy to get a lot of extra pebbles from this, especially if you get a chip sweep. Also, the miner mole being 3 berries, like being attached to the mine, is also very strong, but I find myself passing up on the mine a lot. It's strong, but only situationally strong. If you end up in a situation where it's helpful, then it's often very, very helpful. But on its own, right, I don't see a mine and I don't start slavering. Like I do for the next card, the Judge, S tier. One of the best cards in the game, no question. Also, a she, fun fact, Richterin. You will find yourself using the Judge's ability almost every time you're playing a card after you get her. She is so useful. You get to use a cheap resource to pay for an expensive resource on its own. Individually, maybe that's not going to be a big deal, but the thing that makes her so strong is that you get to use her over and over and over again. And the earlier you play her, the more value you're getting out of her. You're turning a twig into a pebble. That is something you're going to find yourself doing very frequently. Or if you have like a bunch of farms or something, or Gemischtwarenladen, general store, you're going to be using berries instead of pebbles or something. Or maybe like you haven't been able to get a twig. Okay, you can use something else in place of a twig. It makes you so much more flexible, and you're using it almost every time you get something. Cannot stress enough how strong she is. And she is attached to one of the strongest constructions. So it's like the building is also, I'm going to spoil it now, the Gericht, what is it called in English? The Courthouse. That is also S tier. So if you get the Courthouse, and then the Judge shows up, you're also getting the Judge. So it's 2 S tiers right there, right? Like the fact that she's associated with such a strong building makes her a no-brainer, right? You're picking her up even late into summer. She's strong. We go to one of the strongest to one of the weakest. I don't understand the point of the teacher. You draw 2 cards, you keep 1, you give 1 to your opponent. Like, yeah, that's cool. There are a few things that are nice about the teacher. First of all, if you fill in the school with a teacher, you get 1 extra point from the school because the teacher is a common critter, and you get 1 extra point for every common critter if you have a school. So that's neat. Teacher is cheaper. 2 berries, one of the cheaper critters. Also worth 2 points. Like, all of this feels nice, but the ability is weak in that you are giving an opponent a card, and you're only picking from 2, unlike something like the Gravedigger, where you get to pick something from the meadow and deny that to your opponent, but also potentially like guarantee that you can play it later. The teacher just feels like a worse version of a lot of other cards, and never when I see the teacher am I excited to see him. Also, the teacher's a he. The teacher is male. The Shopkeeper is either low S tier or high A tier. 1 berry for every critter that you play is very, very good. Berries are a very hard to come by resource. You often want to be using them for other things than paying for critters, right? Like the doctor, you can get a lot of points from the doctor if you hoard berries. Also great to have a berry on hand at all times just in case like a useful critter comes up. Oftentimes you're going to be playing cards like the King or the Queen with berries, just because it's a massive pain to play the building and then play their associated critter. So just the shopkeeper giving you a steady stream of berries just for playing the game how you were going to play it anyway is really, really good. I feel like it's almost self-explanatory, but it's good for... it's good just because you're going to be playing critters and you're going to get a lot of berries from it by the end of the game, even if you play them kind of in the middle. The Architect. The Architect is a card that I often end up passing up on, but still think is very strong. Architect is male, by the way. Some games, especially in more green games, if you're playing a green strategy, the Architect can give you a lot of extra points at the end. Part of the reason I put it up in A tier is because you can get up to 6 points for it, and with the right strategy, you can get a lot. You are not going to be playing the Architect every game, but in the games where you are playing him, he is very, very good. On top of that, it's really, like, if you have an Architect in your hand, you just hold on to it, wait for a crane to show up, play the crane, play the Architect for free, and then burn the crane. It's oftentimes when you're playing the Architect, it's very convenient to do so. And for all of those reasons, the Architect goes up in the A tier for me. The Bard. Bard's funny. I put him in B tier. I'm not always clamoring to get him. However, when I do use him, he feels very, very good to play. He is very valuable at potentially up to 5 points. Oftentimes, especially if you have a lot of junk in your hand, he's a really good way to get rid of that junk, even before autumn, so you don't have to go on the journey to get rid of cards to get more points. And it's kind of like having a free highest tier journey spot. Very useful. However, I'm not going to be using him all the time. He's nice to clear out your hand if you really need to. I mostly find myself using him for his associated event, which is really nice. Again, very situational, but also he's kind of a no-brainer if you have a theater, and he is great dungeon fodder. You get 5 points. Maybe you use him to get the Cartographer's Expedition, and then you throw him in prison. Great, right? Like, that is the ultimate play. That is a little bit situational, but again, when the stars align, it's very strong. You leave him if you don't really have a place for him, but he's very easy to nab oftentimes when you have the opportunity and he makes sense. So I'd say he's situational, but he's definitely strong when he shows up. The Barge Toad. Bootsklute. This is also a man, to my understanding. Oh, the Bard is also a man, a male. I forgot to mention that. Barge Toad is also situational. If you have one farm, he's good. Anything that gives you resources is nice. 2 twigs might not seem super exciting, but he's probably, if you get him out in summer, you're going to be getting at least 4 twigs, which is the value of, more than sending one of your workers to go and get 3 twigs. And sometimes resource, like tiles, are just not available. And having a nice steady supply of twigs is lovely, especially in combination with the Holzschnitzer, which is the Woodcarver. Really strong in combination there. It's easy, like having a lot of twigs is often very useful, especially if you have a judge. Again, if you have the Holzschnitzer, if you have a Barge Toad along with the Woodcarver, you're going to be getting a lot of extra points by the end of the game. They pile up really fast, even with just 2 activations. And again, green strategies tend to pile up on top of themselves. So you use the chip sweep to activate the Barge Toad or the Woodcarver again. You're getting a lot of points. So the Barge Toad is situational, but in the right situation, he becomes very, very strong. The chip sweep, Fegehündchen. I think Hündchen. I think that means that she's a girl. I think so. I think so. I'm not sure. Nondescript. Just small, right? I guess we have male, female, and small, and the chip sweep is small. The chip sweep is, again, situational. strong in the right situation. I personally like this card a lot, even though I don't end up playing it a lot, because if you have the Resin Refinery and then you play the Chip Sweep along with it, the worst you're doing playing it is getting another Resin, which is great, right? The moment you play it, and then it's green, so you get to do it again. So maybe you play a green card later, you get to activate that. If you combine the Chip Sweep, like I mentioned, with the Barge Toad, you're getting a whole bunch of extra value. It's just good. Great card in the right situation, but in the right situation is very, very strong. Doctor, similar kind of thing with what I've been talking about, also a dude. 3 berries to pay 1 point. The Doctor is very valuable, right? One of the few cards to cost more than 3 in the game. Berries are a very precious resource. And so the Doctor's not going to be very valuable unless you have a farm or two, maybe a general store, right? If you have a way of generating berries, or maybe the forest tiles are just very berry heavy, you're going to get a lot of value out of him then, right? But if you don't, then he's going to be very weak. Sometimes you'll end up playing the Doctor at the very end of the game because maybe you get a university and he's worth 4 points. Shrug. Can't go wrong with that. So he's always good. I would say like high B tier, maybe like around here-ish. Don't take it as gospel. Probably below the king. But in the right situation, he will just make you oodles of points. The Fool. My opinion of the Fool has degraded over time. The Narr in German. The Fool is a man, and the man is very situational. I used to love him. I thought that he was really strong. Taking up a spot in an opponent's city is really good on its face, and like on its face, it should just be really good. And also dropping 2 points, that also feels like it should be good. But there are a couple of problems with this. It is attached to the Festplatz, which is in English the Fairgrounds, drawing 2 points. So just being able to do that real quick. And if you have the Fairgrounds, go for it, right? There's basically no reason. There are some times when you don't want to play the Fool when you have the Fairgrounds, and I'll get into that in a second. But you usually want to play them. Sometimes you'll want to play him, but again, very situational, and that's because when you play the Fool, you are giving him to your opponent, and he can be okay to have in some situations. First of all, he's a unique critter, so if someone gives you a Fool and you have no way of getting rid of him, but you have a theater, for example, then he will still be worth a point because he's a unique critter in your city. Also, he counts toward getting the cartography expedition, or if the Everdell games are there, you can inadvertently help your opponent get closer to the Everdell games, and then your opponent might still be able to get rid of him. So in that case, you've mostly helped your opponent, and that hurts. I have done that. I have shot myself in the foot that way before, and I feel like an absolute dweeb doing it. So, situational, you really got to make sure that you're not helping your opponent. And again, and it hurts when you have the Festplatz and then you don't want to play its associated critter. That sucks. You want to be using that. That's one of the reasons that you're going to be playing constructions. So the Fool, the more I play, the less I like him. The Historian is a man, and he is S tier. One of the things you will find yourself struggling with the most in Everdell is filling up your hand after you've emptied it. And the Historian basically removes that struggle, practically removing one of the big barriers in the game. If you see the Historian on the board at the very beginning, or you draw him, you do everything you can to play him first. I might put him higher than the Judge. I think the Historian might be even better than the Judge. Just being able to draw a card every time you play a card is so, so good, and it's self-explanatory, right? Having a hand full of cards is useful, and doing so is a massive pain sometimes, and the historian just removes that struggle. If you are the first player, right, like maybe you want to go to the Haven, get rid of two of your cards to get berries, and then play the historian right away. He's just that strong. Every time I see him, I grab him as quickly as I can. The husband! Husband is probably B tier, along with the wife, right? He's hanging out. We'll put them next to one another. Husband and wife duo is strong for very obvious reasons. Together, they are worth 7 points. The only thing that makes the husband tricky is if you are going to use his ability, you have to already have a farm and already have a wife. So if you play the husband before the wife, you don't get to use his ability until the next green season, and by that point, you need to have him with his wife. Sometimes you're going to be waiting until the end of the game to get that pair, and you still want to pair them because they are very valuable together. But you are going to be struggling to do that sometimes. Another frustrating thing is sometimes you're going to want to play the wife first, like in order to grab the wife. Maybe the wife is in the meadow. You need to burn your farm slot in order to grab the wife before anyone else can, and then you have to pay full cost for the husband. That is a huge pain. It sucks, but when you can get it going, when you have it available, you definitely want to do it. It's worth a lot of points. The ability of the husband is really lovely. And also they're cute. And they only take up 1 spot in your city. Also, husband is the harvester in the game. I personally like... if you are playing the online version, then the husband will by default be the harvester. So the husband is the harvester, the wife is the gatherer. But I think husband and wife is cuter. Personally, it's preference. The Innkeeper! Innkeeper is a dude, and the Innkeeper is also an S tier. This is a no-brainer. He's 1 berry. If you have a berry and you see the Innkeeper pop up, you grab him. There is no question. He is just free resources, basically. You're not even using a worker to get those extra resources. And anytime you can get effectively more resources without burning a worker, you do it. It is a no-brainer. The only thing that makes the Innkeeper a little weaker is actually his cost, funny enough. He's so cheap that playing the inn and then playing the Innkeeper is something you will not often find yourself doing. It is not something you're playing around. But the Innkeeper is so good and so cheap that you're just going to end up grabbing him immediately anyways. And then you're probably going to want to burn him as quickly as you can so that you can get another critter in case another Innkeeper comes up. Because he is a unique critter. You cannot use an Innkeeper to get another Innkeeper. Because technically, you nab the card first and then you do any abilities, but you can't grab a unique card if you already have that unique card in your city. So you use them and then you burn them as quick as you can. Just no-brainer. The Monk. I know a lot of people would want to put the Monk in D tier. I'm not quite that cruel. I feel like the Teacher is significantly worse in a lot of situations than the Monk. However, you are not ever playing the Monk without, the Kloster in German, the Monestary. Giving an opponent berries sucks. Giving an opponent resources just sucks. The Doctor is as strong as he is, partially because you are not giving the resources to someone else. Same with the Woodcarver. We've talked about the Woodcarver. I think the Woodcarver is good. But if you had to give those resources to another player, then it's not very good. The Monk is so situational that you are going to find yourself not really wanting to play the Monk very frequently, and that's partially because you are not going to want to use the Monestary very frequently, which we will get into, so I'll probably save most of that for later. But part of the problem with the monk is that it's a green card. Now, if you could give, like, 4 berries at once to another player to get 4 points, then maybe that would be stronger, because you could do it at the end of the game after your opponents have filled up their cities or already taken most of their turns and the berries aren't going to be useful anymore. But the fact that it's a green card means that if you play the monk too early, you're going to be giving your opponents a bunch of berries, and berries on the whole, I would say, are worth more than 1 point. So it's so situational. You're mostly using it to open up the second part of the monastery, but I'll talk about that when we get to the monastery. But just very, very, very situational, very low C tier. The Hausierer is a dude. The Hausierer is the Peddler, and he is high C tier. It feels weird, again, like right on the border of B and C, because being able to trade 2 resources for 2 other resources is good. But the fact that you only get to do it for 2 resources, you have to do it all at once, unlike the Judge where you can do it incrementally, and the fact that you can only do it at specific times, usually no more than twice, unless, like, you're not going to generally want to use the chip sweep to activate the Peddler. Again, if you really need to turn other resources into, like, specific resources and you have the berries to burn, sure, but again, berries are usually pretty precious. So you're spending 2 berries to transform 2 resources, which you have to already have. The Peddler is attached to the ruins, and the ruins are practically the easiest construction to play in the game. But even then, oftentimes I find myself hesitating to play the Peddler, just because there are other ways to do what you want from him, and usually unless you have a Barge Toad who's going crazy. You're getting a ton of resources from a very strong green strategy. I find myself not using the Peddler very much. And even when other people I play with use green strategies, the Peddler is pretty low on their priority list. The Postal Pigeon. Postal Pigeon is Brieftaube. And Brieftaube is a dude, I believe. Should be. Postal Pigeon is weird. Again, I do not find myself clamoring for the Postal Pigeon. If I have a post office, then yes, I'll play him. But I'll put him above the Peddler for sure. Part of the reason that the Postal Pigeon is so iffy is because you have very little control over what you're doing with him. You draw 2 cards and you gotta pick one, and sometimes one of those cards is going to be worth more than 3 points. And then you have no choice as to what you're playing. Which really sucks, because sometimes it just does not synergize at all, and sometimes, even worse, you end up taking up a spot in your city that you wanted to go for something else. You play him when he's convenient, but convenient is not frequent. On top of that, his associated special event is also extremely situational. It's not every game that you're playing a doctor, and it's not every game. It's the flying medical service or flying pharmacy or something. You get points. You get 3 points for every husband and wife duo, but in some games there just aren't any husband and wife duos. So it's like the event is situational, and it's attached to a very situationally useful card. So, use them if you got nothing else. If you have no game plan, then maybe the Postal Pigeon can start you down a path. But certainly, you're not going to be going for a Postal Pigeon if you have any idea of where you're going. the Undertaker, the Totengräberin in German. The Undertaker is a woman. And the Undertaker goes, high, like C tier, somewhere around here. The problem, there's nothing inherently wrong with the Undertaker's ability. It's just usually there are other cards that you want to be playing first. Being able to get rid of 3 cards in order to mess up your opponent's strategy is good. That is useful. And then being able to take one of those cards is also useful. Nice. But again, not amazing. Not helping you in a really obvious way a lot of the time. Like, there is that randomness. It's like the Postal Pigeon. You're not entirely sure how valuable this card is going to be until you play it. And for that reason, usually you're going to want to play something else where you know how valuable that card is going to be, or it's building up to a lot of value. The other problem is it opens up another spot in the Cemetary. And the Cemetary is a funky little card with problems. Potentially very strong, but practically speaking, you're not going to get a ton of value out of it, but we'll get to it. We'll talk about it when we get there. But generally speaking, the building it's associated with is not great. We'll get to that, though. The Queen. A tier or S tier? The Queen is really good. If the Queen shows up at the very beginning of the game, probably S tier. The Queen is a very funky card. It's like, the reason she's like right on the edge is because her associated building is the palace, and the palace is expensive, but you want to get the Queen out before you're dealing with getting the palace. The Queen is, in general, a lot cheaper than the palace. You're going to be taking forever trying to get the palace going. And then by that point, you're getting a lot less value out of the Queen. You want the Queen out, if at all possible, in like spring, which is absolutely possible. If you draw a few cards and then go to the Haven, you absolutely can get the Queen out. If you're one of the later players, right? If you're like the 4th player, you can get rid of your whole hand to get a bunch of berries, and then send a fella to go and get a berry for you, right? And boom, you have a Queen in like late winter or spring. It is absolutely feasible to do so, and she is very valuable. She's worth 4, and being able to play a 3-cost card for no cost is really good. The fact that it is not limited to the meadow or your hand, the fact you can play from your hand or the meadow, is also really, really strong. She's so flexible. And for 5 berries, you are going, you're spending a worker action to do it every time, but by the end of the game, you are almost certainly going to be getting value out of her. The Queen is a card that people early game are fighting over, and even in the mid game, and like in summer, people are going to be fighting for, just because she's that strong. Again, the thing that holds her back is that her building is a pain to get out first. I would say very few times are you going to be playing the Palace and then playing the Queen, unless it's like the end of the game and it's convenient and you're doing it for points, and maybe you need a 3rd red card. The event associated with the color. Yeah, Queen, really good. Player without the Palace. Okay. I don't know if it's just my luck. I have been playing Everdell for months, and I have never once played the Shepard. I don't know what it is. Theoretically, the Shepard is decent, especially if you don't have to, especially if you have a chapel. But you're going to be playing really late. He's going down with the monk. It's so situational. And then you don't really get a ton for achieving that situation. Like getting 3 berries is really nice if you have a chapel, but oftentimes you're just going to be like, you're not going to be playing the chapel, and so you're not going to be playing the Shepard. Shepard is a dude, I should note. But it's I don't know, man. I just maybe he's good sometimes. Maybe. I wish I had more to say. It's just he's so situational that in the months I've been playing this game pretty regularly, I've never played him. Which just tells me that he is insanely situational. In theory, he's good. But you just gotta have, like, you gotta be playing the chapel really, really early. And that just doesn't happen very often. The Wanderer, the Wanderin, is a lady. And this lady I would put in A tier. High A tier. Like, close to S tier. Like, I'm not going to be clamoring to get the Wanderer every time. Part of what makes the Wanderer so good is that she does not take up a spot in your city. Being able to have an extra fella there is really nice, partially because it helps you go and get the event, go and get the gray event. Also because it's associated with the Ausguck, the watchtower, which is one of the, like, I wouldn't say one of the best cards, but is a good card. Like, it is a card that you are never unhappy playing. Being able to grab the Wanderer for free is a no-brainer, right? Oftentimes you need cards, and this card gives you cards and doesn't even take up a space in your city. It also is the only card that makes me really start wanting to play the Monestary, because of the event associated with it, and we'll get to that when we get to the Monestary, which is coming up very soon, it looks like. But Wanderer, good. Very good card. Almost no reason not to play her. Also, she's cheap. 2 berries. That is one of the cheaper critters. Woodcarver, Holzschnitzer. This is a fella. B tier. Gotta be high B tier. One of the better B tier cards, actually. Very situational, but when the situation arises, very, very strong. If you have a way of generating twigs, if you have a Barge Toad with some farms, or you have a Twig Barge, Woodcarver is kind of a no-brainer. And on top of that, its associated building is pretty good too. We'll get to it again. Like, we'll get to it when we get there. But Woodcarver is very self-explanatory. You pay 3 twigs. Twigs are the cheapest resource in the game, besides maybe cards. Arguably. And then you just get 3 points every time you do it. If you have a way of generating twigs, the Woodcarver is a no-brainer, because it is very easy to pile up on twigs in the right situation. You can even pair it with the Judge, right? If you have a good enough way to generate twigs, then you can have the Woodcarver and the Judge out and just be burning twigs like crazy. It's great. It's great in the right situation. The Castle. B tier. It's a purple card. It's just one of those generic purple cards. It is one of the better ones, though. I will place it significantly higher. I'll put the school up here because it's still fine on its own. But the Castle is a really good purple card, because purple cards you want to be playing at the end of the game, and the associated critter is the king. If you got a king in your hand and then a castle shows up, it is a no-brainer to just nab the castle, then play the king, both of those at the very end of the game. It can be a massive point swing. Like, the king maybe isn't going to score you as much as some other purple cards. Maybe you'll struggle, like you'll have to really focus on it. But it's so convenient to do it that why not, right? Because that situation crops up so often. Plus, if you're going for a green strategy, it's really easy to pick up the castle because you're generating a bunch of resources. And, like, you get an extra point for every common construction. It just synergizes so well naturally with the game's mechanics that it is definitely one of the better purple cards. It's not an automatic pickup in the same way that, like, one of the S tier cards is, right? And the A tier cards, like, they are, they're still a little bit situational, right? Like, but in their situation, they are incredibly strong. The castle isn't quite up to that level, but it is very, very good. Okay, we made it to the cemetery. The cemetery... God, I just do not get a lot of value out of the cemetery. Every time I think I'm going to get value out of it, I just do not. Inn's better than the cemetery. I feel weird putting the inn next to the cemetery. Inn is higher than the cemetery, I would say. One of the higher ones. Higher than the school? I don't know about that. Right around there. The problem with the cemetery is that, like the monastery, when you put a worker there, the worker is stuck there. You cannot free the worker by using the ruins. I have learned this the hard way playing the electronic version, playing the online version. A ruin does not free the worker. If you put a worker in the cemetery in summer, you do not get them back in autumn. Even if you use the ruins on the cemetery to get rid of it, or a university, that worker is gone for good. They are dead and buried. So you want to be playing a worker onto the cemetery in autumn. Now, there are some strategies that can give you a lot of value. If you can discard some cards and then put a worker on the cemetery, you can potentially play one of those cards you discarded for free. There are some short-term strategies where you discard a card that you really want to play, but you don't have the resources to play it, put a worker on the cemetery, then you get to play that card for free. A couple of problems with this is that, one, it's very easy to disrupt that strategy, and it's very easy to see that strategy coming if you are an opponent. If you just go to the Haven and discard 4 cards to get a couple of resources, you can completely ruin this strategy. You got to time it in a way that someone isn't going to actively mess it up. Second, because you're doing this so late in the game, you'll often find that you have a lot of the resources that you want anyway, and you're already really close to filling up your city. So this is really only useful if either you plan on discarding a card and then using the cemetery, or you get lucky. And relying on luck in Everdell is a really quick way to end up losing. You have to be flexible in Everdell, but relying on finding the right thing is by far the way that I lose the most often. And having 2 slots for that, I mean, it's the same problem twice. On top of that, it's 2 pebbles, and pebbles are a really precious resource. You can often use other cards to reduce the cost of, or like change, right? You can use the judge to turn that pebble into a twig or a berry or a resin, or you can use a crane, but with the crane, you're not getting full value. Because it only costs 2 pebbles. So it occupies this really awkward spot, and to top it off, it's worth 0 points. And then oftentimes with 0 cost cards, you want to use something like the university to get rid of it at the end of the game. It is a card that has a lot of anti-synergy with itself. And it is such a specific moment when it's good. I don't know that it's better than the Fool. I don't know that the Fool is worse than the Cemetery. But I will say that the Cemetery, it is so rare that I find myself getting value out of it. Very iffy. The Chapel! God, this card is situational. It's more situational than the Cemetery. It's going to hang out here with the Shepard, because, boy, if you're going to get value out of the Chapel, you gotta do it early. 1 point and drawing 2 cards and burning a worker for it, like everything has to line up just right to get the Chapel. And on top of that, the Chapel's expensive. There's a pebble in that cost, man. It is rough. On top of that, the number of ways how would you even play the chapel in late winter, the beginning of, like, before you prepare for next season the first time? I mean, if you are the last player in a 4-player game and you discard all your cards with a worker, then you play the chapel, then you play the worker on that chapel. Like, okay. Okay, man. Like, theoretically, you can sort of accelerate with it, but everything has to line up so precisely that it's really hard to find a situation where I would do a chapel in place of something else. And, like, on top of that, yeah, the chapel's good, but if I see a judge or a historian or a queen or a courthouse, we'll get to that, I'll probably just want one of those instead because they're more flexible. Points, I'm thinking about getting points at the end of the game, man. And there are other ways to get, like, more cheap ways. Like, remember, you're burning a worker every time you send them to the chapel. You could be getting resources. It's going to be approximately as valuable anyways. It's really hard to get value out of a chapel where you wouldn't get equivalent or better value somewhere else. So obscenely situational. I have never played a chapel strategy, and I hope that changes because it seems like fun. I want to try it, but I don't know when I'm going to get the chance. On the other hand, the Clock Tower is S tier. The Clock Tower is, like, one of the best cards, in my opinion. And for a couple of reasons. It has to do partially with the way that the game is set up. So the way the Clock Tower works is kind of weird. You play it, you put 3 points on it, and then you can burn one of those points in order to copy the effect of one of the places, like one of the work spots that one of your workers is on when you prepare for next season. It is hard to play it in spring. Definitely worth playing it in spring, if you ask me, if you can manage it. But the Clock Tower is not a bad card to play in spring or summer, right? If you can play it in winter, I should say, in late winter. But it's just generally a good card to play practically any time, and it has to do with the way that exclusive spaces work. Oftentimes, when you have workers out, like your worker is blocking a space, and then when you prepare for next season, if one of your opponents has an available worker, then they're just going, like, because you have taken up that space, you have probably starved them of that resource, and they're going to want to go to that space next. So they're often going to fill in that spot, and that means that you are going to have to wait even longer to go to that space again. The Clock Tower solves this, because you just get to activate that spot again. On top of that, there are some forest tiles that just are naturally very, very strong. So there's no reason not to use the Clock Tower. You're using it practically every time. That alone would probably make it high A tier. What makes it S tier is that its associated critter is the Historian. Getting a Clock Tower means that the moment a Historian crops up, you can grab the Historian for free. That's just good. On top of that, the Clock Tower is not the highest cost card. 3 twigs and 1 pebble for what it does is really good. So if you're looking at it from a purely efficiency standpoint, yeah, you're burning like 2 workers worth of going places and getting things done in order to get maybe 3 workers worth of value. But the fact that you get to activate the same space twice is what really tips it over the edge. And then the Historian being associated with it is the cherry on top. Amazing card. I will grab it practically anytime I see it if it's any earlier than autumn. The Courthouse. Oh, God, it's good. I mean, it speaks for itself. A few of the same things come up as the Clock Tower. First, its associated critter is the Judge, and the Judge is one of the best cards in the game. Probably put it, like, up here. It's good. Like, you are going to be paying out the nose for the Courthouse. If you can use a crane, that's amazing. Like, you get incredible value out of a crane if you use it to play a Courthouse. But even then, you often just want to play the Courthouse anyway because you're going to be playing cards, right? And you get rewarded for playing cards. 2 pebbles, 1 resin, and 1 twig is steep, but it is worth 2. And again, play the Judge for free. Judge is a 3 berry cost critter. You get value, baby. You're going to be playing a lot of constructions as you play. And on top of that, if you're playing ruins, right? If you play a card and then you play ruins, you're getting a resource from each of them. This is a card that pays for itself faster than you would expect and in spades. The Courthouse is often a card that I try to pick up as my first card if it appears. Crane. Another no-brainer. In fact, I put the Crane and the Innkeeper like at the very top of S tier because like if they show up, you grab them. There is no question. Even if you don't have an architect, the Crane is good. The Crane is cheap. You burn it. You pay for another building. Even if you're using it to play a farm, right? Like you go, you grab a pebble, you use the pebble to play a crane, you use the crane to play a farm. Oh no, you've got a berry. And then maybe that you can get a lot of strategies going way, way faster when the crane shows up. It is just one of those cards that pays for itself immediately. And even then, sometimes you hold on to it for a minute, maybe use it to go and get the monument event, and then burn it, right? You don't have to hold on to it. The fact that it doesn't continue to take up a space in your city is godly. The fact that you get rid of it, and then maybe you hold on to it to go fishing for an architect, right? Who knows? There's just so many ways you can use it. It is not only valuable, it is flexible as well. There is no reason not to get a crane when it shows up. Kind of similar, the dungeon. The dungeon, I still think is S tier, but it's low S tier, like maybe high A tier. There are a lot, I'm going to put it high A tier, because there are a lot of games where I end up not playing the dungeon for whatever reason. It's a great ruins candidate. You get some really nice resources back when you use the ruins. Really easy to play the dungeon with the crane as well, so you find yourself playing it just out of convenience. It will always pay for itself, right? Like the crane gets you value, and then the dungeon gets you value on top of that. The ability to put a useless card after it's played, like a bard, or a monk even, right? Like in some very specific strategies. Postal Pigeon is another great example. Dude's smuggling drugs, I guess. If you can get the ranger out, the dungeon easily becomes S tier. On its own, high A tier. With the ranger, it's a no-brainer. It's great. The ability to clear cards out of your city after they have served their purpose is amazing. But it's good. I mean, again, self-explanatory. You pay 3 fewer resources for a thing. And anything, right? A construction or a critter. And you're clearing out your city of critters that maybe you don't want anymore. That's great. The only thing that holds it back is that you cannot jail the ranger as the second spot in the dungeon. But boy, it's good. The Evertree. Maybe not as strong. I would put it... Oh, boy. I still find myself trying to nab it whenever I can. It's just so obviously good. The problem is that it's a purple card that is very expensive, that is often a card you want to be playing last in your city. So there are quite a few times where that flexibility of getting to play any critter with it just doesn't end up being that relevant because your city's already full, right? Like I've played games where the Evertree gets played and that any critter, that incredible ability that lets you play any critter just does not get used because the city's full and there's something else that you want to play, something that's going to get you more points, that's more valuable. So the Evertree is strong, but maybe not as strong as it immediately seems. It is expensive. Even with a crane, you're paying out the nose for it. That's 6 points on its own because, it is intrinsically worth 5, and then it itself is a purple card, so you get 1 extra. Even in most games, though, it's going to be pretty good. I'm talking myself into it being B tier. Like high B tier. There we go. It's a good card. Usually when you see it, you want to nab it. But it's maybe not so universally strong as some of these cards. I'm looking at the Architect, and I'm kind of like, he is good when he's good. He's very good when he's good. So yeah, I think he deserves being up there. But the Evertree, sometimes you end up passing up the Evertree just because it's not convenient to play it. But it's still very good. It is obviously worth a lot of points. And no one's going to ever complain about that. It's just, boy, you're paying a lot for it. You got to be playing it at the right time. And you got to be playing it early enough that open slot, that any critter slot, is going to be useful. The Fairgrounds. How do I feel about the Fairgrounds? It's actually a good question. I don't end up playing it very much. Partially because it's so expensive. Its ability is theoretically quite good. I'm going to say high C tier. It's one of the higher end C tier cards. The problem is that it's so expensive. 1 pebble, 2 resin, and a twig. For a green drawing 2 cards is a hefty investment for something you're going to have to wait to see the full value for. And for a green, you're waiting until autumn usually for your green cards to really pop off, but it's really harmed by the fact that its associated critter is the Fool, and look where the Fool is. We've talked about earlier why the Fool is really kind of an iffy card. The Fool sometimes is a card that you don't want to play. You don't want to give your opponent because sometimes it can give an advantage. So if the Fairgrounds were cheaper, if the Fairgrounds maybe cost 1 less resin, I would give it the thumbs up. I put it up in like B tier. But the fact it's so expensive really stops me from playing it in most of my games. There's also kind of a structural problem with the Fairgrounds. Unlike other green cards, which will give you resources that you always can accept, you can hold an unlimited amount of resources. Your hand is finite. You have a maximum of 8 cards in your hand, and because it's a green card, you don't have as much control over when it activates. So maybe you have a plan, like you're ready for autumn, you have all the cards in your hand, but it's full and you don't have any workers, which would allow you to free up space in your hand. Well, I guess you're not getting value out of the Fairgrounds. It's very easy to not get value out of it. And those kind of structural problems become a big issue. On top of that, you want to draw your cards earlier so that you know what you're gunning for. And because you have to wait to draw those cards, you don't necessarily know which direction you're going. You don't know where to send your workers. You don't know what kind of resources to collect. And so you're kind of flying blind a little bit. It's always nice getting cards. There's nothing wrong with cards. Cards are good. But compared to other cards of its cost, the Fairgrounds is pretty weak. In my opinion. The Farm. I mean, it's one of the most basic buildings in the game, and doggone it, it's decent. Part of it has to do with its synergies. If you have some Barge Toads, of course, it's extra good. If you have a general store, of course, it's extra good. It's also very flexible in that it allows you to pick up either a husband or a wife. And it's cheap, right? 2 twigs and 1 resin, really easy to get a farm out in late winter, and you're going to get extra value out of it. Doggone it, it's good. It's really hard to pass up a farm. Like, if I'm not picking up a farm, it's gotta be something else that is really exciting. And hell, right? Sometimes you're going to get a crane just to get a farm. And then the farm allows you to pick up a husband and a wife, and then the earlier you play the farm, the more likely you're able to play matchmaker and get both a husband and wife. It's great. A lot of strategies start small with the farm. And you want to play it as early as possible to get the most value out of it. And even then, there are cards that work alongside the farm that you're going to want to play the farm later to get the extra value out of those cards. Maybe you play a general store and then, like in summer, and then you find a farm. Well, you'll play the farm so that you can get the extra berry out of the general store. Boom. Wonderful. Synergizes well with the doctor, right? The farm synergizes with a ton of things. Often, I'll find myself playing a farm not knowing which direction I'm going yet, but I'll figure it out along the way, and the farm makes it a lot easier. So I put it in solid B tier. Good card. Aha, the general store. General store I put like right next to the farm. I'd say higher. I'd say, even higher than the husband and wife, maybe. Just because it's associated with the shopkeeper. One berry makes it as good as the farm, even though it costs more. 2 twigs, approximately equal to 1 stone. Yeah, I'd say it's about, you're going to be spending about the same amount. A little more. But the fact that you can get some extra berries if you have another farm is really nice, and the fact that it allows you to pick up the shopkeeper immediately for free is also just lovely. When you get a general store and a shopkeeper, you'll sometimes find yourself flooded with berries, which is never a problem. It's always nice to have a lot of berries. They're so useful in so many different situations. So, again, just a really solid card. The Lookout. Lookout's really good. I find myself passing it up a lot, but that's not enough to make me say that it's bad. The ability to copy any basic or forest location is just so good. Forest locations are so competitive, and having a way to reliably use them is really good. The Lookout is not just great because it allows you to, double up on a single space. It also, it makes your game a lot more reliable. Like if you have a strategy that requires you to get a specific resource or maybe activate a specific forest tile, no one can stop you. The Lookout is exclusive. Nobody else can use the Lookout, only you when you play it. And that exclusivity makes it even stronger. It makes your game so much more reliable. And then add that to the fact that its associated critter is the Wanderer. If a Wanderer shows up, that's a no-brainer. You grab it. Even if your hand's full, screw it. It's free. If you're worried another person might pick it up, just grab it, right? It doesn't take up any space in your city, and it can get you one step closer to the cartography expedition. Lookout's not that expensive for what it does either. 1, 1, and 1 is very reasonable. Just solid, lovely card. Any card that makes your strategies more reliable is a good card in my book. The Monestary. I used to love the Monestary. And then the more I've tried to play Monestary strategies, the more I've realized just how weak it is. I find myself using it more than the chapel. That is to say, I've used the Monestary. But it's really tricky. The problem is just that the structure of the game makes it hard to use. You want to use it after other people have taken their turns or aren't going to be spending their resources. You don't want to end up in a position where you are using, you're giving your opponent resources that they are going to use. It is helped by the fact that you can give them any resource, but most resources are just good to have anyway. So doing it in a way that makes sure you're not helping your opponent is difficult. And add that to the fact that you need to play a monk to unlock the second spot kind of blows. Its associated event is pretty nice if you can make it work. But again, it's so hard to make it work. Oftentimes you end up in a situation where another strategy is just going to get you a couple of extra points, so why would you use the Monestary? It often just barely gets eked out by some other strategy. And so I just can't see myself recommending it. Ah, the palace. Ugh. It's down here with the school, man. Like, it's one of those cards that I will play if it becomes available at the end of the game and it gives me points. But it's not something that I'm going to build my strategy around. I might grab it to deny it. Yeah, like, sure, it's a purple card, and purple cards at the end of the game are good. And sometimes it'll be worth a bunch of points, and that's lovely. But when it comes to purple cards, you really need to be looking at how flexible they are. Like, when I'm looking at purple cards, I'm kind of comparing how they are to one another. Rather than in the grand scheme of things. Like, the best way to look at them is seeing, okay, well, would I rather see a palace or a castle show up, or a school? And with the palace, there's a similar problem with the school, but kind of in a different direction. With the school, the associated critter sucks. With the palace, the associated critter is the queen, which is really, really good. She's up in S tier. The problem is that she's so good, and the palace is so expensive that you're probably going to end up playing the queen before you play the palace. And that kind of sucks. You want to try to play the critter that's associated with a construction, if it's possible. But with the palace, you're almost never doing that. Sometimes you still want to play it because you have a lot of unique constructions, but on the whole, if I were in this position, like the palace is frustrating to play, whereas the castle just flows so nicely and fits into a lot of strategies. The palace is like, well, the palace showed up, guess I'm grabbing it, and you're maybe not getting as much value out of it as something like a castle. The post office. I did not used to like the post office, but as I have gotten better at the game, I have come to like it more and more. It's hard to get a lot of cards. Sometimes you end up in a position where you have discarded all your cards at the Haven to get a resource to play a building, and now your hand's empty. And the post office is a great way to fill up. My understanding is that you do need to be able to give someone 2 cards to use it. So you have to have 2 cards left in your hand. But that's not too hard to guarantee, especially if you're planning around it. On top of that, the post office is really cheap. 2 resin and 1 twig is really nice. There's even a forest tile that will give you those exact resources. So it's a nice building. It is open, which isn't great, right? Like, your opponent can use it. But even then, right, like, getting that extra point, the post office isn't like the inn where, like, you're terrified if your opponent uses it. Like, the inn is really going to mess things up if someone steals that spot away from you. But the post office is not as big of a deal. So funny enough, the fact that the post office is a little weaker than the inn in some ways is a boon. And on top of that, the associated critter is the Brieftaube, the postal pigeon. And in a lot of cases, you don't want to play the postal pigeon, but speaking for myself, if I have a post office and I see that the postal pigeon crops up, I'll grab them. Like, that is a time, like, if it's for free, yeah, sure, why not? It's a hard card to pass up when it's free. So yeah, post office isn't too bad. Also, it's a very cheap Steppy card. Steppies, red card. Oftentimes, I find myself struggling to get enough red cards to get the event. But the post office is so cheap that it goes a long way there. Really nice to play if, like, the Everdell games is in play. The Resin Refinery. How do I feel about the Resin Refinery? It's not in C tier. Probably B tier, low B tier. you're spending a resin and a pebble to get a resin, and oftentimes it's just activating twice, so you're basically trading in a pebble for a resin, which is a bad trade. Overall, it's good if the nice thing about it is that it gets you a free chip sweep if you can find it, or if you have another way to activate green cards, right? Otherwise, it's kind of meh. Like, just on its face, right? Like, on its own, it's not that good. If you can get a chip sweep for free with it, then yeah, absolutely worth it, no question. But other than that, the math doesn't math most of the time. Sometimes it does. And when it does work out, it's lovely. It's nice. But otherwise, I don't find myself exactly clamoring to get it. I'm going to put it down top of C tier. You really need things to line up just right to get it right. Not that you need a massive combo to make it strong, right? You just grab a chip sweep and then it's worth it. But even then, I'll often end up wanting other strategies over it. Ruins! It's really hard not to put Ruins in S tier. It's just so nice. Oftentimes you end up playing a construction, and it served its purpose, and you want the resources back for something else. Great to play on a dungeon after you've already filled it up, right? Leave them down there to rot and turn them to ruins. And the extra couple cards is nice. It costs nothing. Like, it gives you no points, but if you play it on a card that's already only giving you 1 point or even no points, right? It's great. And then drawing an extra 2 cards is nice. And then on top of that, it still has an associated critter. It has the Peddler. And the Peddler, if you already have Ruins, is a nice card to have. It's really hard to pass up the Ruins. And it counts toward your gray cards, brown cards. Are they called gray or brown? I don't remember. But it counts. It counts for anything else. And on top of that, the associated event with it is you need the Historian for it. The Ruins and the Historian. It's really strong. It allows you to draw 5 cards, keep as many of them as you like, and any that you don't keep go under that card, and you get as many points as you put under it. So, worst case, right? You have 2 of the best cards in the game, and then you get a free 5 points on top of that for the cost of sending a worker somewhere. Absolutely great. Ruins are amazing. I often find myself grabbing them if they're in the, like maybe holding onto them in my hand, if I can do so, right? If I prepare for summer. And I'll just grab the Ruins and use it eventually. The Storehouse. Stockhouse? Lager in German. Pretty good. I often find myself passing it up, but in the right situation, it's very, very good. It is so efficient to load it up with a bunch of stuff, and then come autumn, like you can use a chip sweep as well on top of it. And then just absolutely load up the Storehouse and then plunk someone on there. Ideally, you want to be putting berries on it, because 2 berries is really good. It is by far the most efficient usage of the Storehouse lager. But sometimes you just need construction materials, and it's so efficient. And it also helps that the Woodcarver is the associated critter, which, as we've talked about earlier, in a lot of situations is a great card. So it's just solid if you have the right situation. Again, it's situational, but if that situation arises, you are going to be getting oodles of value out of this card. The Theater. I love the Theater. I love this card. I like it better than the Evertree. It's just 3 cost on its own. 3 twigs, 1 resin, and 1 pebble for a purple card of its caliber is really good. A lot of the best cards in the game are unique critters. And the more unique critters you have, the more points you're getting. Like, often you're just going to be wanting a bunch of unique critters. And so getting extra points for having a thing you wanted anyway is great. It also really helps that the Bard is a card you want to often be playing a little later in the game. I find myself wanting to play later in the game. It's really nice if you have like a way to draw cards as well. because then you can use the Bard, draw more cards, and then go on a journey, right? You just you make sure you use all of the cards in your hand. It's great. I just get so much value. You know what? Theater goes in A tier. Theater's just great. And then if you have the theater, then I would say the Bard goes up in A tier. No, I just love the theater. It just makes so much sense in almost any game. Sometimes if you're going for a really green strategy, maybe you're not going to get a lot of value, but even then you'll often have a unique critter or two, so a little bit of extra value, and then you get a free Bard. Shrug. It sucks having a 0 value card in your city like the Bard at the very end, but that's okay. I think that oftentimes it's worth it in a lot of situations to have the Bard sitting there. Yeah, theater. One of the best purple cards there is. I'd even put it over Architect. Nah, maybe not over Architect, but it is very good. This is very loose, to be clear. The cards relative to one another is very loose. Twig Barge. Ooh. Somewhere in B tier, I think. I like it better than the Minor Mole, for sure. I'll put it there. 2 twigs is good. I don't know what else to say. You're going to be spending a pebble to eventually get more twigs, but like, twigs are a really easy resource to get a lot of value out of. If you have a judge, then twigs obviously are going to be the thing you use to fuel your economy. On top of that, it is associated with the Barge Toad. So you get the Barge Toad for free, and the Barge Toad is a great card. Like, it allows you to grab it as quickly as you can. Don't even need to worry about having berries for it. It's really simple, but it's really nice. And it's cheap. That 1 stone sucks, but if you're going to the Haven and discarding some cards, I mean, you can get 1 stone. You can get 1 stone pretty easy in general. And the 1 twig is a pittance. It's great. But there's nothing wrong with it. It's one of those cards, it's really hard to talk about because just twigs are good. And when you're paying 1 twig and 1 pebble, you're going to be getting your resources back. It's good. Finally, okay, last one, University. University, I do end up passing it up in some games, but it's definitely an A tier, at the very least. The ability to get rid of cards in your city is one of the strongest abilities that you can have. Because often you use a card, it gives its ability, then you want to get rid of it. The University is a card that you can use multiple times, and you're not just replacing it. The Ruins is an S tier because it has no cost, right? But it does have a drawback in that it still takes up a spot in your city. The University, you just get to get rid of the card completely and free up space, and you get the resources back to spend on something else to put in. It is worth 3, and you get an extra point. That's just nice, and an extra resource, which can make a huge difference. It costs a worker. The thing that keeps it from being an S tier is that it is pretty expensive, but it also is a really nice crane target because it's 2 pebbles and 1 resin. Lots of value. But also the doctor, right? The doctor is associated with it. If you throw down a University, get rid of, a Postal Pigeon, that, it's not giving you any points. You get those berries, then you play the doctor, you get to spend those berries on getting points from the doctor. It's great. And then combined, the University and the doctor by default are worth 7 points, which is already great value. It's really hard to pass up the University if you can manage it. If you can, usually you end up playing it in summer. But then even just 2 uses of it is going to be mega value. And the fact that it's worth 3 means that you are fine keeping it in your city until the end. Wonderful, wonderful card. I try to take it pretty much whenever I can on principle. I love it, but there are times when I have had to pass it up, so I can't quite put it in S tier. And that's it. Again, this is a lot of this is, just my experience. I'm sure that other people have had experience. I'm sure if you asked me on another day if one of these cards should be in another tier, I'd agree with you. But this is like a general, the poor teacher is down there. I'm sorry. Alone in D tier, the teacher just is vibing. Poor fella. I really am confounded by that card. I don't really know what you're supposed to do with it. But everything else, I mean, a lot of this is experience. I'm sure that you have had experiences where like a card in low C tier has done you a lot of good. The Fool's great in some situations, right? Like I play the Fool frequently, right? I pick him up when the chance arrives. But I have to be very precise with him because he can really throw you off. Like I have played the vast majority of these cards and gotten great value out of them. So just because a card is in a lower tier doesn't mean it's useless. I've played the teacher, right? Like just because that's how the game shook out. And that's one of the nice things about Everdell. You end up playing everything eventually, except apparently the chapel. One day I'll play that card. But for the most part, yeah, like you will find yourself playing all of these cards at one point or another. It's not that they're bad. It's just you end up working with what you're given. And that's one of the great things about the game. So just because a card is going to be in a higher tier doesn't mean you will never play any of the lower cards or you'll always pass them up. Sometimes you really just need to refill your hand, man. And the post office is there, and maybe you have a postal pigeon in your hand and you need to free up space in your hand. So you play the post office, then you play the postal pigeon, and then you refill your hand with something else. You have to play the game by ear, and that's one of the great things about the game, is even the weaker cards you end up playing because in the moment, that is what you need, and it has presented itself. But yeah, if you haven't played Everdell, and you don't play Everdell, and you've listened to this, what are you still doing here? Thanks for watching. Give the game a shot if you haven't played it. I love it, and maybe this will help give you a general idea of orienting yourself when you get started. And if I'm wrong, if you just vehemently disagree, let me know in the comments, and I will respectfully ignore you. No, it's fine. Play the game how you like. I'm having a blast with it, and I imagine I'll be playing it for a long time to come. Thanks, everyone.